They say diamonds are a girl's best friend. But when Marilyn Monroe died, the diamonds didn't show up to her funeral. Frank Sinatra didn't show up. The Kennedys didn't show up. The studio executives who made millions off her smile didn't show up. Only one man showed up. He was the man she married exactly 72 years ago today, January 14th, 1954. He was the only man who knew what she looked like without the makeup. And for 20 years after she was put in the ground, he was the only one who kept a promise that death couldn't break. Today is January 14th. To most of the world, it's just a Tuesday in winter. But on this day in history, the most famous woman in the world and the most famous athlete in America walked up the steps of City Hall in San Francisco and made a mistake that became a legend. I'm talking about Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. And I don't want to tell you the glossy magazine version. I want to tell you the truth about the quote zero. Because it wasn't a fairy tale, it was a tragedy. But it was the kind of tragedy that teaches you what love actually is. You have to look at the photo from that day, January 14th, 1954. There is no white dress. There is no church. Marilyn is wearing a simple brown suit with a white ermine collar. She is clutching 3 orchids, and her hands are shaking. She looks terrified. And Joe? Joe looks like he wants to punch the photographer. They were fire and ice. Marilyn was the chaos. She was Norma Jeane Baker, the orphan girl who spent her childhood being passed around foster homes, desperate for someone to look at her. She built Marilyn as a shield. She shone so bright because she was afraid of the dark. Joe DiMaggio was the silence, the Yankee clipper, the son of Italian immigrants. He was a man of tradition, honor, and privacy. He wanted a wife who made pasta sauce and stayed home. He didn't care about the movies. He didn't care about the fame. When they got married that day, the press called it the romance of the ages. It lasted exactly 274 days. 9 months. Less time than it takes to have a baby. Why? Because the world wouldn't let them alone. Joe didn't marry an actress. He married a public possession. There is one moment that broke them. You know the scene. The movie The 7-Year Itch. Marilyn stands over a subway grate in New York City, and a gust of wind blows her white dress up. We look at that image today and see an icon. Joe was on set that night. He stood in the crowd of thousands of strangers, men who were whistling, cheering, leering at his wife's legs. He didn't see art. He saw humiliation. He saw his wife being sold like a product. He stormed off the set. The fight they had that night in the hotel room is the stuff of Hollywood legend, but it wasn't glamorous. It was the sound of a traditional man realizing he could never protect his wife from the wolves. They divorced in October. Marilyn stood in front of a judge crying and said Joe was mentally cruel. Joe just walked away. He went silent. And this is where most stories end. She went off to marry Arthur Miller, the intellectual. She went off to sing Happy Birthday to the president. She spiraled into the glittery, drug-fueled madness of the 1960s. Joe stayed alone. He never remarried. He never gave an interview. He watched from the shadows as the woman he loved slowly fell apart. And fall apart she did. By 1961, the party was over. Marilyn was broken. The pills weren't working anymore. The quote sevens who drank her champagne stopped answering the phone. She was committed to the Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic. It was a nightmare. She was locked in a padded room. They took away her clothes. She felt like the orphan girl again, trapped, unwanted, unlovable. She used her one phone call. She didn't call the president. She didn't call Sinatra. She called Joe. Think about that. The ex-husband she hadn't seen in years, the man she humiliated in court. And what did Joe do? He didn't hang up. He didn't say, "I told you so." He flew to New York. He walked into that clinic like a thunderstorm. He told the staff, "I am taking my wife home, and if you try to stop me, I will take this building apart brick by brick." He was Joe DiMaggio. They let her go. He took her to the Yankees' spring training camp in Florida. He didn't try to sleep with her. He didn't try to use her for publicity. He just let her rest. He protected her. For the first time in years, she wasn't a star. She was just Norma Jeane. They started to rebuild. Slowly, friends say they were planning to get remarried. They set a date. August 8th, 1962. Marilyn had her wedding dress ready. She told a friend, "I finally understand success is just smoke. But Joe is solid ground." August 8th never came. On August 5th, 1962, the phone rang in the middle of the night. Marilyn was gone. Overdose, 36 years old. The vultures descended immediately. The media, the studio heads, the fake friends, they all rushed to the cameras to cry fake tears. But Joe stepped up. He didn't give a speech. He gave orders. He organized the funeral. And he stood at the gate of the cemetery with a list. He banned the Kennedys. He banned Frank Sinatra. He banned the producers. He said, "None of those people are coming in." They killed her. It was a small service, just family, just the people who loved the girl, not the poster. Joe leaned over her casket, kissed her cold forehead, and whispered 3 times, "I love you. I love you. I love you." But the story doesn't end at the grave. This is the part that haunts me. The day after the funeral, Joe placed an order with a local florist in Los Angeles. Paris florists. His instructions were simple. 6 fresh, long-stemmed red roses, delivered to her crypt. The florist asked, "For how long, Mr. DiMaggio?" Joe said, "Twice a week, forever, for the next 20 years. 20 years. Through the changing of the world, through wars and peace, every single week the roses arrived." Joe never looked at another woman. People offered him millions of dollars to write a book about her. He turned them down. People tried to get him to talk on talk shows. He walked out. His love wasn't content for the masses. It was private. When people mentioned her name in his presence, he would just go quiet. It was a wound that never healed, but it was also a shrine. In 1982, Joe finally canceled the order, not because he stopped loving her, but because he knew he was dying, and he wouldn't be around to pay the bill. He died in 1999. His last words were not about baseball records. They weren't about his fame. He closed his eyes and whispered, "I'll finally get to see Marilyn." I think about that today on the anniversary of their wedding. We live in a world that is obsessed with likes and public displays of affection. We measure love by how big the diamond is or how many people comment on the photo. But real love, the kind that matters, it's showing up at the psychiatric clinic when everyone else has run away. It's the roses that appear when nobody is watching. It's the loyalty that outlasts death. Joe DiMaggio was a difficult man. He was jealous. He was stubborn. But he was there. He was the only one who didn't want Marilyn Monroe. He just wanted Norma Jeane. Today, there will be no questions. Honestly, folks, it feels cheap to turn a love story this heavy into a trivia game. Who cares what city it was? Who cares about the dates? What matters is the feeling. What matters is the loyalty. So, instead of a test, I have a request. Pick up the phone right now. Call the person who has stuck by you when you weren't at your best. Don't text them. Call them. Tell them, thank you for staying. Because life is shorter than we think, and you never know when the line might go dead. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll be back with a lighter story next time. Go make that call. This is Pop Pop signing off. Bye now.